You are hoping to be a transitional leader. What is your plan in that transition? What would the first 100 days look like? Because we know that these protests are economic in nature. They are about food and life and democracy second.
Maria, I'm a fighter pilot. I've trained all my life for exactly this moment. And people are calling on me to step in and lead this transition. I'm here to lead and help our nation go through that transition. But beyond liberation, we have to have a plan for stability. We have to be able to protect the citizenry. We have to be able to stabilize the economy. And for that, we have very comprehensive plans. I'm helped by numbers of economists, scientists, jurists, and specialists in every field. So we can, in fact, address all of these issues the moment the opportunity comes. More importantly is what we're doing right now. As you can, that's beginning to unfold. We're beginning to see more and more defections, which is very important as part of the transition. So all of this is at play as we speak.
You have tweeted directly at President Trump, and you have a message for President Trump. What is that message?
Mr. President, you have already established your legacy as a man committed to peace and fighting evil forces. There is a reason why people in Iran are renaming streets after your name. They know that you are totally opposite to Barack Obama or Joe Biden. They know that you're not going to throw them under the bus as they have had before. This is why they believe that this time they are empowered by the hope that you have their back. Your words of solidarity with the Iranian people and your administration has had tremendous positive effect. Let's hope that we can permanently seal this legacy by liberating Iran so that we and you can make Iran great again. That all the evil that has been brought by this regime from the time it came to power dissipates, and we can finally breathe in an atmosphere of tranquility, good relationship with our neighbors, with the Israelis, with our Arab neighbors, and the rest of the world. And this will happen because, unlike this regime, this is the commitment of a nation. Have an opportunity to elect their leaders freely and to decide their own future. Under international observation, we will know that this will be fair and fair elections. I am committed to that. That has always been my objective. But it is important that we have a good process established so the world understand, and the people of Iran, most importantly, understand exactly this time how we're going to achieve that. Unlike what happened 47 years ago, where nobody really had a clue what it would mean to have what Khomeini planned for Iran. And by the time they woke up to it, it was too late. This time we cannot afford not to be clear on the alternative. I think the alternative is clear. The people have spoken. They have their trust in me, and I've stepped in at their request to provide them with that process. I'm committed to that, and I will do everything that I can to ensure that we end up with a democratic alternative in Iran.
So how long do you expect the transition to take?
We have to try to do it as soon as possible. Realistically speaking, it could take a couple of years because a lot of things need to happen and people need to be able to organize themselves, the right structures and everything. So it's a process that shouldn't take longer than that. And it all depends on how successful we are in implementing the immediate short-term needs that will stabilize the country. All of that will have an impact on how quickly we can address that issue and bring the transition period to a minimum amount of time possible.
The Trump administration a week ago went into Venezuela and extracted the leader there, Maduro. And do you believe that incident galvanized the people in Iran?
Look, every time countries are liberated anywhere in the world, it's a positive message of encouragement to other nations that are still gripping up with unwanted systems and regimes. It's a message of solidarity across the world. People were empowered when they saw the success of Nelson Mandela in South Africa or the success of Lech Walesa in Poland, and so on and so forth. And in this case, our Venezuelan friends who have the same optic and vision of a tomorrow liberated Iran, because unlike the connection of Caracas, Tehran under these two regimes, they can understand that democratic nations will be the best partners possible. I'm happy for the Venezuelan people. I think the Iranian people get encouraged by that. And that's why I think the commitment to help the Iranian people in their liberation is not just, as I said, for the best interests of the Iranian people, but it is also in the best interest of the world, and particularly the United States of America.
And would you be willing to actually run in a potential election? I mean, you just said you were a fighter pilot. You were trained in the United States. Are you willing to take off the uniform after a transition and say, yes, I am going to run in an election and we will see who the people decide is their next leader?
As I said, I'm here to lead, but the choice is that of the people. My job right now is to make sure that we achieve that transition, that as an honest arbiter, I'm a unifying force. That's why they're calling my name, because they have their trust in me. It's a huge responsibility that I intend to carry out to the best of my ability.
Your Highness, there is an issue about the Chinese Communist Party as part of this story as well. The Chinese finalized a deal back in 2021 to acquire ports in Iran. Are there plans to try to separate from the Chinese Communist Party? How do you see that playing out?
Look, Maria, this regime, out of weakness, have offered far too many concessions, whether to Russia or to China. We don't believe that the future of Iran has to be antagonistic to Russian or Chinese interests. We just don't want to have unfair, imposed, imbalanced arrangements. Most of these arrangements have been unfair and balanced, and it's basically dividing our country in our national interests. So long as we can defend our national interests, we are prepared to deal with any bloc, so long as it's based on fair trade. And I think this is an element that will obviously be an issue of discussion in parliament and future governments in Iran as we determine our foreign policy and relationship with the whole world.
So you think that could be part of the conversation, trying to get the CCP out of owning those ports?
As I said, this is something that has to be decided once we have a functioning democratic government. In the meantime, we have to be able to also protect the best interests of our nation. And that's why we should have an open mind as to how to deal with that, because we don't need to have further confrontation with anyone. We have to bring it back to sanity, responsible, pragmatic, and objective analysis, and see what's best. And hopefully we can have, based on mutual interest, a different arrangements than the one that we currently have, that is totally lopsided and undermines Iran's national interest. That we cannot stand for, and I will not stand for.
And this story is so enormous to actually think about the idea of potential freedom and a free Iran. I don't see a lot of the international media covering it, like the BBC, for example. What is your take on the media's role here?
But look, mainstream media is entirely missing the actual narrative and ask that the people of Iran have. And again, when you have absence of internet and the feedback from Iran, it is very difficult for the world to understand really what's happening. Yeah. I hope that the media ultimately feel responsible in giving fair coverage to the facts on the ground in Iran, rather than to offer some unfounded opinions or biased interpretation of what's happening. But, regardless of whether the media coverage exists or not, we know what we need to do as a nation. But I think the world that has been in awe of the courage and determination of our compatriots have bypassed mainstream media. They do hear from the Iranian people. I just hope that they do their professional job, and this time really have accurate accounting of what's really happening, and let the people judge on their own, as opposed to push an opinion on people.
And Your Highness, before you go, I want to get your take on these threats from the Iranian Khomeini regime, saying that they will target U.S. military bases in the Middle East should the Trump administration get involved here. Are you expecting the administration, do you want to see the administration go into Iran and take out Khomeini? And what about the threats that they will hit back at our military installations in the Middle East?
Look, the people of Iran have responded and reacted positively to a promise of intervention by the president and his administration, that if the regime turns their gun and continue massacring its own people, that will not remain unanswered. That's the ask on the ground. We need to make sure that this time the Iranian people are successful. That kind of assistance will go a long way in letting the Iranian people prevail in this war that we have against this regime. And we need to cut the snake's head off for good, so it can no longer be a threat to Iranian interest, to American interest, to regional interest. And the only solution is to make sure that this regime goes down for good and the Iranian people can liberate themselves, because they are contrary to this regime that is a sworn enemy of America. We Iranians are a friend to America. We proved it before, and we'll prove it again.
Your Highness, when was the last time you were in Iran?
It was July of 1978, so It's been a long time.
Your Highness, it's wonderful to have you this morning.
But I'll be there soon.
Yes, we will be watching. Thank you, sir.